Christmas to the next. I can imagine the little Frenchman bleating with anticipation. They stayed a week. When it was time to say goodbye, her daughter cranked up the tears again because she was upset at leaving her mother in that rambling house in the middle of nowhere. "We have a lovely bedroom waiting for you," she said, throwing herself into a hug that Nives repelled by keeping her arms rigidly by her side, her thoughts repeating, "Good luck with that." She leaned down over the children. They were identical to their father, tawny-haired and taciturn. They had never been able to look their grandmother straight in the eye. They only ever started to loosen up when it was already time to leave. "See what we've come to?" Nives said to herself, planting 2 kisses on the kids' heads, which shone in the new spring light. She held out her hand to her son-in-law. He was a champion of politeness, for sure, but he was a pillar of salt. One of those men you had to stab with a knife before getting any emotion out of them. The very opposite of her daughter, who carried on whimpering until Nives finally turned on her and snapped, "I'm not dead yet." She'd said it partly for a laugh and partly to let it out, but Laura didn't take it well. It must have sounded like a sick joke so soon after her bereavement. Her face darkened, as if touched to her quick in an obscene way. "Ciao, Mama," she sighed, dragging out the final kiss on her mother's cheek. The family clambered into the giant rental car. Nives watched them as they drove down the dirt track and disappeared onto the country road. The kids didn't turn around to wave goodbye from the back window. All that was left was a cloud of dust, which only lasted a few minutes. Then Poggio Corbello went back to what it had always been, a place closed to outsiders. Nives looked back to the trough where her husband's days had unexpectedly come to an end. She wondered how the Catani family were doing. They must have made a mint after 20 years in the slaughtering business. Following the tragedy, they'd honed in like missiles to pick up cyclamen, but she still hadn't gotten the payment for the 280 pounds of hog meat. "Every sale is an ordeal," she muttered, and went inside. For the first time, she wasn't able to sleep a wink. While her family had been there, she hadn't had any trouble, not even with the shock of tragedy in the air. Now she lay there on her side of the bed and suddenly knew why. When she closed her eyes, she felt funny, as if the familiar room might change into something else while she slept. All at once it felt unacceptable that the world could carry on going about its own business. It was as if Anteo was lying there next to her. She was terribly tired, and on 2 occasions nearly succumbed to her exhaustion. But if she so much as started to let the mooring slip away, her eyes would spring open again, and she would come awake with a jolt and a heaving heart. This was compounded by a nauseating sensation, which luckily only lasted a few minutes, of not knowing exactly where she was. Odd as there was really no mistaking it, she had lived on the hillock for just under half a century. There was nothing untoward in that place that could trouble the waters. The old house where she was born, so full of vivid memories, might have put her out of sorts, but that was truly a lifetime ago. It was during the second delirium of twilight sleep that she had a fright. Someone was calling her. She heard her husband's voice clearly as if from the next room, calling, "Nives." A timbre that had punctuated her life day after day from her girlhood to now. She thought about it this way throughout the night, putting on a brave face until she heard the first calls of the sparrows. Anteo watched me grow up, from 20 to over 60. A half-dream that feels like a hallucination is normal enough. I'm no monster. When she went to look at herself in the bathroom mirror, she almost said out loud, "Who the hell is this?" The bad night stayed with her as she did the rounds to check on the animals. She fought back a tremor under her skin. Her side vision was watery. The hutches started shaking as she approached, the rabbits competing madly to be first in line. She went over to the side of the house with her bucket of birdseed and lifted the latch of the chicken coop. The hens gathered into a clucking cloud. Nives went to look for Giacomina, who was always last out because of her right claw, which only had one lumpy nail. Anteo had been saying for ages that they should make broth.